Nigeria doesn't deserve the World Cup. Before you insult me, hear me out. I am not saying Nigeria does not have the talent. I am saying the exact opposite. Victor Osimhen, Ademola Lookman, Alex Iwobi. And beyond the players already wearing green and white, look at the Nigerian football bloodline spread across Europe. Bukayo Saka was eligible for Nigeria. Ebereki Eze was eligible for Nigeria. And there are many more. Nigeria is connected to enough elite football talent to compete, not simply with the best teams in Africa, but with the best teams in the world. France, England, Brazil, Argentina, Spain. Those should be the countries Nigeria dreams about challenging. Not countries Nigeria should be watching on television while the World Cup is being played. So how does a football nation this big, with this much talent, this much history, this much passion, miss 2 World Cups in a row? At some point, we have to stop calling it bad luck. Nigeria has been to 6 World Cups. The Super Eagles gave Africa unforgettable teams in the 1990s. Nigeria has won the Africa Cup of Nations 3 times. And at youth level, Nigeria has won the FIFA Under-17 World Cup a record 5 times. 5. Think about that. This country has been producing elite footballers for generations. Nigeria did not suddenly discover football yesterday. This is a country with history, a country with expectations, a country where football is part of the culture. And recently, the talent has still been there. Victor Osimhen became African Player of the Year. Then Ademola Lookman won the same award the following year. Back to back. Nigeria literally produced Africa's best player 2 years in a row. So again, talent is not the excuse. Now let's go back to 2022. Nigeria faced Ghana for a place at the World Cup in Qatar. The first match finished 0-0. Then came the second leg. Nigeria returned home, in Abuja, in front of their own supporters. The match finished 1-1, and Ghana advanced. Nigeria stayed home, one of Africa's biggest football nations, missed the World Cup. Painful? Absolutely. Embarrassing? For a country with Nigeria's expectations, yes. But football happens. You can fail once. You can lose one playoff. You can make mistakes. You can promise yourself that next time will be different. And 4 years later, Nigeria got another chance, except this time, the World Cup was even bigger. 48 teams. More African places, more opportunities. Surely Nigeria would not miss this one too, right? Wrong. Nigeria opened the 2026 World Cup qualifiers at home against Lesotho. 1-1. Then came Zimbabwe. Again, 1-1. 2 matches, 2 draws. 4 points available that Nigeria should have been fighting to take. Nigeria took 2. And immediately, the campaign was in trouble. Then Nigeria drew with South Africa. And after that, Benin beat Nigeria. 2-1. Read that again. A country with Victor Osimhen, Ademola Lookman, Alex Iwobi, and players competing across Europe was struggling just to stay alive in World Cup qualification. And while the results were falling apart, the coaching situation was falling apart too. Jose Peseiro left after taking Nigeria to the Africa Cup of Nations final. Then Finidi George took over. But after the poor start to World Cup qualifying, Finidi was gone. Then the Nigerian Football Federation announced Bruno Labbadia as the new head coach. 3 days later, the deal collapsed. The agreement had been announced before everything was completely settled. Tax issues became a problem. And suddenly, Nigeria did not have the coach they had just announced. Augustine Iguavon stepped in again, temporarily, then eventually. Eric Chell arrived, Think about what that means. Different coaches, different systems, different ideas, different expectations, all while World Cup qualification was already happening. This is not how serious football nations prepare for the biggest tournament on earth. You cannot keep changing the driver while the car is already moving, and then act surprised when it crashes. And this is where blaming one coach becomes too easy. Because coaches come, coaches go, players change. But one institution remains: the Nigerian Football Federation. And now, we have to talk about the federation, because how do you demand world-class performances while running the national team with instability? How do you ask players accustomed to Manchester, London, Madrid, Milan, and some of the best football environments on earth to suddenly accept lower standards because this is Africa? Why should Africa mean lower standards? Why should Nigeria accept less? If Nigeria wants a world-class national team, Nigeria needs a world-class football organization. And then came another problem: money. Before Nigeria's crucial World Cup playoff in November 2025, the players boycotted a training session. The reason? Unpaid bonuses. Some of those payments were reportedly owed from years earlier, dating as far back as 2019. And this is where the argument gets uncomfortable. Because one side will say, these players make millions in Europe. They play for massive clubs. They already have money. So forget the bonus. Put on the Nigerian jersey and play for your country. And honestly, millions of Nigerians would probably play for the Super Eagles for free. So here is the question. If you are already a millionaire footballer, should you ever stop training for your national team because of money? Should representing Nigeria be bigger than a bonus? Should the flag come first? That is one side. But now listen to the other side. If somebody owes you money, does your bank account suddenly make that debt disappear? If the federation promises players bonuses, why should the players be ashamed for asking for what was promised? Being rich does not mean people are allowed to break agreements with you. Patriotism should not become an excuse for bad management. You can love your country and still expect your country's football federation to keep its word. Both things can be true. So who was wrong? The players for refusing to train? Or the federation for allowing the situation to become so bad that players felt a boycott was necessary? You decide. But the federation cannot take all the blame either, because now we have to talk about the players. Commitment, discipline, sacrifice. When these players return to their European clubs, everything matters. Training matters. Recovery matters. Tactics matter. Punctuality matters. Performance matters. If you lose your place, somebody else takes it. If you disrespect the manager, there are consequences. If you arrive unprepared, there are consequences. So when international football arrives, does Nigeria get that same seriousness, the same intensity, the same discipline, the same sacrifice? Because wearing the Super Eagles shirt should mean something. It should not be a vacation from club football. It should not be somewhere you come because your European season stopped for 10 days. It should be one of the highest honors of your career. But again, here is the uncomfortable question. If the environment around the national team is disorganized, if promises are broken, if coaches keep changing, if players do not know what comes next, how much responsibility belongs to the player? And how much belongs to the system around him? Maybe Nigeria has a discipline problem. Maybe Nigeria has a management problem. Maybe it has both. And that brings us to an even bigger question. Why do so many footballers with Nigerian roots, when they have a choice, choose somebody else? England, France, Germany, other European nations. For years, Nigerian supporters have watched players with Nigerian parents, Nigerian grandparents, Nigerian blood grow up in Europe and then wear another country's shirt. And every time it happens, the same argument starts. They betrayed Nigeria. They forgot where they came from. They chose Europe over Africa. But is it really that simple? Take Bukayo Saka, eligible for Nigeria. He chose England. Eberechi Eze, eligible for Nigeria. He chose England. And there have been many others over the years who faced similar decisions. But then look at Ademola Lookman, born in London, played for England at youth level. He could have continued chasing England. Instead, he chose Nigeria, and eventually, he became African Player of the Year. So clearly, being born in Europe does not automatically mean you cannot love Nigeria. It does not automatically mean you cannot fight for Nigeria. And it does not automatically mean you cannot become one of Nigeria's most important players. So maybe the real question is not, why don't these players love Nigeria? Maybe the real question is, what is Nigeria giving them to believe in? Imagine you are 17 years old. You were born in Europe. You grew up in a European academy. You have trained your entire life inside a professional football structure. Then two countries call you. One offers stability, clear planning, elite facilities, a defined football identity, and a realistic chance of competing for the biggest trophies in the world. The other offers your family heritage, your parents' country, your blood, your history, but also coaching instability, administrative problems, stories about unpaid bonuses, and uncertainty. Be honest, which choice becomes easier? And before somebody says, foreign-born players will never care like home-born players, Morocco has something to say about that. At the 2026 World Cup, 19 of Morocco's 26 players were born outside Morocco. 19, not 2, not 5, 19. Many were born and developed in Europe, France, Spain, Belgium, the Netherlands. And yet, when they put on the Moroccan shirt, nobody looked at them and said, "These guys don't care." They competed. They fought. They believed. And Morocco reached the World Cup quarterfinals. So maybe birthplace is not the problem. Maybe the passport is not the problem. Maybe growing up in Europe is not the problem. Maybe belonging has to be built. Morocco did not simply sit around and hope talented players would choose them. They created a project. They recruited. They built relationships with their diaspora. They showed players that Morocco had ambition, structure, direction, a plan. And suddenly, being born in Europe became an advantage, not an excuse. That should make Nigeria uncomfortable. Because Nigeria has one of the biggest football diasporas in the world. Nigeria has talent everywhere. England, Germany, France, the Netherlands, across Europe. So if Morocco can convince foreign-born players to buy into a national project, why can't Nigeria do it consistently? And maybe this is where Nigerian football has to stop blaming the player first and start asking whether the national team is giving that player something worth believing in. Because loyalty cannot only be demanded. Sometimes, loyalty has to be earned. And yet, even after all the chaos, all the dropped points, all the coaching changes, all the arguments, Nigeria still had one final chance to save itself. And for one night, the Super Eagles finally looked like the team everybody believed they could be. Nigeria faced Benin, and this time, there was no hesitation, no excuses, no waiting. Nigeria won 4-0. Victor Osimhen scored a hat-trick, 4 goals, 3 from Osimhen. And suddenly, there was hope again. This was the Nigeria people had been waiting for. Powerful, aggressive, dangerous, a team capable of hurting anybody. But here is the painful part. Nigeria needed performances like this months earlier, because by the time the Super Eagles finally woke up, the damage had already been done. Nigeria could not win the group automatically, so now everything came down to the playoffs. Nigeria faced Gabon, and Nigeria survived. One more step, one more opportunity, one more chance to rescue a World Cup campaign that had almost disappeared. Then came DR Congo. Nigeria scored first. For a moment, it looked like the nightmare might finally be ending. But DR Congo equalized, 1-1. Extra time could not separate them. And then came penalties. The cruelest way to decide a football match. One kick, then another. Pressure, hope, fear, and finally, DR Congo won the shootout, 4-3. Nigeria was out. Again, another World Cup, without the Super Eagles. And immediately, people looked at the penalties. Who missed? Who should have taken one? Who should have saved one? Who was responsible? But I think that misses the entire point. Nigeria did not lose the World Cup on penalties. The penalties were simply where the story ended. Nigeria lost the World Cup when Lesotho left with a point. Nigeria lost it when Zimbabwe took points. Nigeria lost it while coaches changed. Nigeria lost it while the federation searched for stability. Nigeria lost it while problems that should have been solved years earlier were still following the team. Nigeria lost it when qualification became an emergency instead of a plan. The penalty shootout was not the disease. It was the final symptom. Because if Nigeria had handled business earlier, DR Congo should never have had the power to decide Nigeria's future from 12 yards. And that is why the biggest question is no longer, why did Nigeria lose to DR Congo? The real question is, how did one of the most talented football nations on earth allow its entire World Cup dream to come down to one penalty shootout in the first place? And now, we come back to the statement that started this entire story. Nigeria does not deserve the World Cup. Now, you understand what I mean. I am not talking about the Nigerian people. The fans? They deserve it. The millions of Nigerians who fill stadiums, who argue about football every day, who wear green and white with pride, who celebrate every goal like it is the last goal they will ever see. They deserve it. And the players? The talent is there, without question. Nigeria has players capable of competing at the highest level of world football. Nigeria has produced generations of elite footballers. Nigeria has one of the richest football talent pools on earth. And somewhere right now, on a dusty football field, in Lagos, in Abuja, in another Nigerian city, or somewhere across the Nigerian diaspora, another special player is being created. Another Osimhen, another Lookman, maybe somebody even better. That is not Nigeria's problem. Talent has never been Nigeria's biggest problem. The problem is what happens around that talent. The organization, the planning, the coaching instability, the broken promises, the discipline, the politics, the accountability, the federation, and yes, sometimes, the players too. Everybody wants the glory. But who wants the responsibility? Everybody wants Nigeria at the World Cup. But who is willing to build a national team that actually deserves to be there? Because history does not qualify you. Population does not qualify you. Passion does not qualify you. Having famous players does not qualify you. Your name does not qualify you. Football does not care how big Nigeria is. The game only rewards what you do on the pitch and what you build away from it. And maybe that is the hardest truth Nigerian football has to accept. Nigeria's biggest enemy is not Ghana. It is not DR Congo. It is not England taking dual nationals. It is not Europe. Nigeria's biggest football enemy might be Nigeria. Because when the talent is good enough, but the results are not, eventually, you have to look at the system. And Morocco should make this conversation even more uncomfortable. Because Morocco showed that an African country can take players born across Europe, build an identity, build a structure, build belief, and compete with the best teams in the world. So Nigeria cannot keep saying, "We have talent. We already know. The world knows." The question is, what are you going to do with it? Because imagine Nigeria getting this right. Imagine the talent, with stability. Imagine Osimhen and Lookman inside a national team with long-term planning. Imagine the Nigerian diaspora looking at the Super Eagles and thinking, "That is where I want to play." Imagine young players choosing Nigeria, not because somebody begged them, not because another country rejected them, but because wearing green and white became one of the most exciting projects in world football. Imagine the federation doing its job, the coaches being given time, the players being held accountable, promises being kept, standards being raised. No excuses, no chaos, no last-minute rescue missions. Then suddenly, the conversation changes. Nigeria stops asking, "Can we qualify?" Nigeria stops celebrating simply because it reached the World Cup. And Nigeria starts asking the question a country with this much football potential should be asking. Can we win it? Can Nigeria become the first African nation to win the World Cup? Crazy? Maybe. But is Nigeria talented enough to dream about it? Absolutely. And that is why missing 2 World Cups in a row should make everybody angry. Not because Nigeria is too small, because Nigeria is too big for this. Not because Nigeria lacks footballers, because Nigeria has too many good footballers to keep wasting generations. So yes, Nigeria does not deserve the World Cup, not yet. The fans deserve it, the talent deserves it, the country has the potential to deserve it, but the system has to earn it. And until Nigeria fixes Nigeria, another superstar will not save the Super Eagles. Another coach will not save them. Another miracle result will not save them. Nigeria has to save itself. So now, I want to hear from you. Who is responsible? The federation? The coaches? The players? Or everybody? And if Nigeria finally gets it right, forget qualification. How far can the Super Eagles really go? Round of 16? Quarter-final? Semi-final? Or world champions? The comment section is yours. This is WeezyOuryTV, football, life, vibes. And as always, we don't just watch football, we talk football.